Kevin Paleo is, he was my first regional field director, and he's now like a really high, I don't know what his title is, but he's a really senior leader in the DNC, the Democratic National Committee. And one of the first things he taught us in trainings, field organizer training in Pennsylvania, is politics is not about making friends. When you go in and you say, no, this is the way this campaign is going to do this, we are going to do these things. And the biggest thing for us was we placed no value on yard signs. We found they created more problems than were of benefit. With anything you do in a campaign, any activity or resource you're using, including yard signs, events, debates, going to high traffic areas, you should have a measurable outcome that gets to one of the core goals that we're doing, which is identifying supporters and getting them to the poll. So when I look at a yard sign, in a lot of campaigns, they're done because they've always been done. And are they really identifying supporters or getting them to the polls? Well, they're not voting themselves. We don't know who they persuaded to vote or how they persuaded to vote them. I'm pretty sure the yard signs aren't voting. So they're not necessarily doing one of those two things. So yard signs can be a great tool if you're using them to raise money, if you're using them to recruit volunteers, if you're using them to maybe persuade an undecided voter. But you have to make sure with any tool that you're using that you know why you're using it and what you want to get out of it. And so when volunteers came in and said, I want my sign, we'd say, great, how many shifts are you going to sign up for? Or we don't have any yard signs for the most part. And people would be furious, like angry, yelling, you'll never win here. How dare you? This is not how campaigns run. We've been running campaigns here for 20 years. You're wrong. We're right. Wait, you guys are screwing up, blah, blah, blah. It's going to happen, except that that's going to be said. Not everyone is going to love us. That's okay. Not everyone that used to love us is going to love us. There are probably people in this room that are already mad at me for the way I'm doing this. That's okay. But the trick is, and I'd encourage you to do this, although it might feel and sound a little bit strange, people that don't buy into what you're doing are going to do you more harm than good. Say goodbye to them. Say, I'm sorry. Well, let's figure this out after the campaign. We can talk about this at some point, but right now we're trying to build a community and get elected. And if you're not interested in the way that we're doing that, that's okay. Goodbye. Don't necessarily try to spend a lot of time trying to fix someone, because time is valuable in what we're doing. Even right now, when we're just sort of doing CA and EDA building, we've got other priorities in our lives. So the time that we have for GPO stuff, that's valuable. How much of it do you want to spend trying to convince a volunteer to see things your way? If that's going to take 6 hours, well, that 6 hours could have been spent running an event, could have been spent canvassing, could have been spent training yourself. There's lots of things you could do with that time. And there's examples ad nauseum of that in the Green Party, of where someone says, we're going to do this, and there's a group of people that goes, no, you should be doing something else instead. Understanding that and accepting that is a powerful tool to go, yes, you know what? I'm going to anger people with this, and that's okay. It's okay to anger people, but if they're not going to buy in to the direction that we're moving in, that's okay too. They don't have to participate. So if you're confident in what you're doing, and Mike and Becky and Bill are setting a direction, at some point we've got buy-in saying this is the direction we're going to move, people are going to be angry with us. They will. They already are. But that's okay. Set the direction, move in it. People that don't buy into what you're doing are not going to be of much help on your campaign. One messenger, one message. When we're talking to people about the Green Party of Ontario externally, people that don't necessarily know the Green Party, we don't want to have 6 different people saying 6 different things to the media. It's tough. It's a grassroots party. It's a challenge. I'm not saying this is easy. But one messenger, one message. Mike is the public figure, face, outlet for the party. He's going to be the most constant external force. If we aren't saying the same things Mike is saying, we're going to look silly. So in the Obama campaign, staff members weren't allowed to talk to the press. If there was ever a quote in even a local paper that had an Obama staff member quoted as saying anything about the campaign, even if he nailed or she nailed the talking point, they'd probably be fired almost immediately. They'd be immediately gone. It is that there were press people in each office. They could talk to the press, but even then, generally, they had to call into the state office and have the state press person talk to whatever the media contact was. The discipline around message, particularly when we get closer to the campaign, is really important, because we're not going to want to talk about all of our ideas at once. We're going to want to talk about a few things to make sure those messages get across. And Joe Schmo volunteer in Thunder Bay isn't necessarily going to be completely educated in what that policy point is or what that idea is. So it's tough. And I'm sure that we'll get into plans around that at some point. But one messenger, one message really helped us in the campaign. Don't panic. Obama, cool, collected guy. Like, externally, everything was okay. But in reality, panic like your hair was on fire. There were things that went wrong. There were things that went very, very wrong. When the Reverend Wright scandal situation broke actually in Pennsylvania, followed immediately by Barack saying people in Pennsylvania cling to guns and religion, the world ended. Like, we went from competitive, doing well, optimistic, happy, to getting yelled at by anybody you talk to ever. Like, oh, I don't like that Barack guy. He said that I cling to my Bible and my guns. You know what? I do cling to my Bible and my guns, and I'm not going to vote for Barack. And if he ever comes here, it got really, really ugly. And we've seen that in the Green Party, too. Can anybody give me a federal example of when we might have... All right, apparently some people can. Which is okay, because here's the thing about that situation and about each of these situations that happen in the States. Same thing as when we do things, people are going to be angry with us. When we speak, especially like people like Elizabeth May and Mike, when they speak, they're going to say something stupid. They really, I promise you, Mike's going to say something really dumb in the media. Because everything he says, because if everybody... Yeah. And for the simple reason of, if someone followed me around with a camera and a newspaper for all day, every day, I say a lot of stupid things. I've said a lot of stupid things in the past 45 minutes. I mean, so if someone followed me around for an entire day recording everything I said, without the full context of the situation, I'm going to say something that when you take a soundbite out of it, is going to sound really dumb. So that happens. In that situation, how we respond is important. What we choose to do when we are faced with a bad situation that we've created for ourselves is very important. And the first step, internally would be great, but particularly externally, is stay calm. Okay, what can we do about this? These things have happened. They're out of our control. We can't unsay what Elizabeth May said about strategic voting. What can we do about it? What's in our power to spin? How are we going to talk to people about this in a positive way? And that's going to be so important for us to be good at, because bad things will happen. I love... Yeah. I use Facebook, Twitter, email. Like, I use all those things. And it's another misconception that was happening during the campaign, and it certainly happened afterwards, that, wow, Barack really used Facebook. Like, yeah, we should use Facebook. And especially when you're talking about youth, like the under 30 vote. Like, the youth are on Facebook. That's how we get them. Those were tools. They're great tools.
That Facebook, Twitter, even email to a degree, are just tools that we use to communicate. And what's really important to focus on behind that is, what are we saying and how are we saying it? Because that's what's going to be the thing that builds the interest, builds the relationships and the connections. Once we have those relationships and connections, that will build the energy and generate the interest for people to use the online tools to connect with us, which we can then develop to organize, run events, do letter to the editor campaign. But it's more important to make sure that we're on the right message, that we're connecting and engaging with people.
But for the most part, it was Barack saying, we can do better. We can have a government that is run by us. We can talk to people in a way that doesn't automatically split our country in half. That, like, when he talked in those things, he was talking in a language of big ideas and hope, and that's how you connect with the under 30 crowd. This crowd, I don't know how many people have a chance to work with university or high school students who are able to read the research and whatnot on them, but they are a generation of big ideas. There's downfalls. Lots of people talk about some of the negatives in it, but that is certainly a huge positive. If you talk about hope, if you talk about sacrifice to join things like in the States it was Peace Corps or Teachers for America, they like that. They like, I can make a difference. If I make the sacrifice, I'm making a difference in a big way. Those were the ideas that got people excited. They connected to the campaign through these tools. That was their connection to the campaign, and we should use those tools for ways to let people connect with us, But just because we put it up there, we can't sit back and then go, we're on Facebook now. Oh, yeah. 25-year-olds are going to vote for us.